Welcome to today's explainer. We're diving way beneath the surface of a text you probably already know by heart to find a completely hidden Hebrew treasure inside the very first verse of Psalm 23. We are skipping the superficial today and getting right into the incredible mechanics and meaning of the original language.
Did you know Psalm 23:1 actually doesn't just say, "I have everything," right? The original Hebrew reveals something so much more powerful. It's a profound statement of security that is echoed through centuries. But honestly, its original depth is so often lost in how we read it today. So let's uncover what's truly beneath the surface.
Section 1. Beyond the familiar, a deeper look.
So to really appreciate the weight of this verse, we kind of have to strip away our everyday assumptions. Listen to how the New International Version translates it. "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing." It's such a beloved, comforting phrase, isn't it? But pause for a second and really ask yourself, what did the author, David, truly mean by "I lack nothing"? Does he mean a life with zero trouble, endless wealth? Or is there a completely different foundation of security going on here?
Section 2. David's experience. The Shepherd King.
Okay, before we get into the language, we really need to understand David's context. He didn't write this as some untested kid. Scholars actually believe he wrote this much later in life, after seeing God's faithfulness through some incredibly intense trials. And this creates this deeply personal metaphor, coming straight from his own background as a literal shepherd. He intentionally casts himself as a sheep, inherently dependent, completely vulnerable. And on the flip side, the Lord is the faithful shepherd who actively provides and protects. And what's amazing is this peaceful imagery actually comes right after the intense suffering described in Psalm 22, which just highlights this unshakable confidence he had.
Section 3. The Hebrew treasure, the verb hasar. So, peeling back the layers, we hit the specific Hebrew verb being used here, chaser. It basically means to lack or to be in need. But here's what makes this an absolute linguistic treasure. It is super rare. This verb only pops up twice in the entire book of Psalms with this exact meaning, once right here and then again over in Psalm 44, verse 10. And hey, in textual analysis, that is our massive red flashing light to pay really close attention to how these two texts communicate with each other.
Then we look at that connection to Psalm 34:10. This brilliant structural contrast just jumps right out. Think about young lions back in the ancient world. They were literally the ultimate symbols of brute strength, power, and fierce self-sufficiency. But the text points out that even they might suffer hunger. Now contrast that with those who seek the Lord, people who are entirely dependent on the shepherd. The result? They lack no good thing. David's underlying message here is incredibly precise. True security doesn't come from the strength of self-sufficiency. It actually comes from absolute dependence.
Section 4. English nuances. Translation treasures.
You know, translation really is an art form. And looking at the different variations gives us a much wider lens on that one Hebrew verb, chaser. The NIV says, "I lack nothing," which beautifully captures this immediate present contentment. But then look at the NASB. It says, "I will not be in need," and the NKJV uses that classic, "I shall not want." Notice how those last two translations highlight a really confident, unshakable assurance for the future.
So when we put all these translations together, we get this incredibly dynamic picture. It's a deep, present satisfaction paired with a resolute, future confidence in God's provision. It completely redefines our baseline understanding. When the Lord is the shepherd, true security isn't about having everything we want, but trusting that He's going to provide everything we truly need.
Section 5. Spiritual application. Practical reflections.
All right, so what does all this rich historical and linguistic depth actually mean for us today? Well, the source material leaves us with three highly practical reflections. First, trust the shepherd rather than your circumstances. Circumstances shift constantly, right? But his faithful character does not. Second, find contentment in God's presence rather than in earthly possessions. Just remember that self-sufficient young lion versus the dependent sheep. And third, listen daily for the shepherd's voice through his word. Allow that guidance to be your ultimate security.
And that brings our explainer to a close, but the journey doesn't stop here. I want to leave you with this one timeless, lingering question to consider today. Will you trust the shepherd over your circumstances? Thanks so much for bringing your focus and curiosity to this explainer. Keep hunting for those hidden linguistic treasures, and I look forward to guiding you through our next deep dive.